Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, it is Friday. I kind of thought we were going to have like a relaxing day today and everything, but like, I don't know. Market's all freaking out about trade wars and that sort of a thing. I'm not sure if it really matters at this point. But whatever, let's go look at the charts. Let's see where we're at. Explain what happened. Okay, well, the Treasuries are actually a little bit lower this morning after selling off a little bit yesterday as well. Who knows, by Monday or Tuesday, maybe we'll have retraced this because this move up was pretty significant. But the S&P 500 down. Why? Because Donald Trump says that he's going to apply 40% tariff to Canada if they don't make a trade deal by August 1st. Now, I think that part of the market is still enamored with this taco trade, thinking that, Donald Trump's never actually going to do anything, and when August 1st comes along, is going to be like, no, but actually, we're going to push it back again. I think if they don't make a deal by August 1st, there's going to be a real reckoning. I'm a little bit concerned about August 1st. But maybe the market is not that concerned about it, because I mean, really, that's like a small drop considering. Maybe the market's not concerned about it because they're confident that they will make a trade deal by August 1st. That could be the other possibility. Well, here is oil. Oil took a bit of a dive yesterday. Maybe we just need to do that, right? The whole Iran episode is just looms on the chart. Kind of makes it hard to really understand what's going on. Okay, gold pushing a little bit higher. Very interesting. That actually kind of goes along with something else I've been seeing. We'll see in a second. Ooh, silver's pushing to new highs. Wowzer. Every time that silver makes a push, I'm just so stunned. It's such an amazing... When it moves, man, it moves. Okay, copper. Well, copper coming back a little bit. I don't know, man. Can we really stay up here forever? Kind of feel like that that at some point they might try and retrace it. I don't know. That one looks a little suspicious to me. Okay, 6 So the Japanese yen has been a little bit more constrained, especially in the overnight sessions. The dollar has been seeing a little bit of strength, but I don't know, that kind of thing right there. That's a little unusual. And Bitcoin, woohoo! Bitcoin just pushing to new highs as well. They just gapped and went for no real reason either. That's the other thing. Not for any real good reason or anything. So, whatever. So, let's see here. Do we have any surveys today? Well, we had the Canadian numbers. I have something called WASDE. That is not something I've ever seen on my calendar before, but that looks like a farm thing. Goolsby speaking at 11. Ooh, we get the U.S. federal budget balance. That will be interesting, but not during our session. So, I don't know. We could see, I think there's a good chance that we will see some decent movement when the S&P 500 opens up and people taking trades on the situation with Canada. So, I don't know. Now, if you missed the video yesterday, I had a video about a KVM switch. I've made videos about KVM switches before, because especially if you're working, like if you work a day job and you work from home, which I think is kind of really the best situation if you're going to be day trading. Being able to switch between your work machine and your desktop machine, super useful. So these KVM switches are totally worth it if you're in that situation. And I want to highlight this one again because these guys are giving us like a crazy discount. Okay, guys? Like they're giving us a really good. Actually, let me see here. How do I think you apply the code in Amazon, right? I don't know. I've never applied a coupon code on Amazon. I don't know where you do it. Okay, so first of all, it's 20% off, so it's $2.95 just by default. But then you also get a nope, it's not that. Maybe it's in the cart. How it says. Oh, it's on the checkout page. Need to check out. No, I don't see that. Oh, here we go. I have a promo code. Promo code. Okay, it does work on Amazon, but I don't know. But I guess that's still the same. It's not applying the Prime Day code. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but still, this switch for $300 is a total steal. It's a total steal. So I just want to make sure. I don't know if that's any of you guys, but if you have ever been thinking about getting a KVM switch, like now is the time. Now is definitely the time. All right. So, well, I must say, the book seems a little bit quieter than it was yesterday. There's some activity. Let's see here. Which way did our algorithm go? Oh, it went long, huh? Why does it keep... the imbalance keep being long, even though we've kind of been selling? That's kind of weird, huh? Good luck. Wow. Somebody commented on our stream from yesterday, good luck with the tooth monster, but yeah, it was, dude, I went to the dentist and, you know, they have this gigantic needle to like numb your teeth with. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but this I can keep it cool. I'm keeping it cool. She does them all. And then after she does them, I get woozy. And I tell you, the thing that triggers me is the feeling a little bit woozy. So like I had like I went into shock, cold sweats, all that sort of a thing. Was not the best experience at the dentist yesterday. And when I came home, man, you know, I think I need to take a snack with me, because I usually feel so spent by the time I get home. But then after I eat, I'm perfectly fine. So I think I'm just tired because of food. I don't know. So yeah. Dentist yesterday sucked. Kinda sucked. Brazilian President Lula says BRICS must take steps to ditch the US dollar. I've kind of been like cautiously reading this stuff about Brazil. I don't really understand what's going on over there. I'm kind of a little, it's a one, you know what? It's very similar to when India kind of started doing political things that I was like, what? Why? What's wrong, Brazil? You don't want to be successful and prosperous? Okay. Fine. Whatever. They don't trust the dollar? Apparently not. Anthropic CEO Dario Amade predicts the first billion-dollar solopreneur by 2026. Okay, explain to me. It's been like 4 years and they've been telling me that for the last 4 years. Why hasn't it happened already? Why hasn't it happened, Amode? Oh man, I keep seeing this. Okay, so there's a stock called MP Materials. Remember, I'm super into rare earth mineral stocks. And one of the stocks on my list, because my particular one, it's done okay, but I would really like it to pop off again. And so I had MP on my list as like, well, maybe I need to diversify across the sector, and MP was like one of the top ones. And the government put a huge investment into it. Like, apparently the government owns like 50% of this MP. Interestingly enough, it's not as high as it was in 2022 before, you know, interest rates and all that craziness. But the jump was a good, well, I wasn't going to say doubled, but I guess it went from like 20, 45. So yeah, more than 100% gain in a day. And I'm seeing it talk about everywhere. And here are some people saying like, well, is that even like, maybe that's undervalued? So every time I see that, I'm just kind of like, dang it, missed the boat on that one. I do think the rare element resources popped a little bit on it. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And that's not an insignificant jump either, so. I still like this stock. I still think this is going to pop off for me. I mean, it did pop off over here, right? I don't think that's the all-time high. Well, that robot's still in the position and everything, but with the way that it's behaving, I kind of think this trade is a bust. Let's see, maybe it gets lucky. Wait, there is a sign on the side of the road for alligator Alcatraz? What? Oh boy. Here's a thread. Is Rust a good fit for a startup focused on rapid prototyping, regression testing, and distributed systems with AWS, AI, and video streaming? Yeah, probably not. I don't think that the learning curve of Rust is actually that bad for the kind of developers that you would need to pull off a startup of this nature. But you're just making it harder on yourself, because it's just going to be harder to find people. I suppose unless you say, well, we're willing to take it, they don't have to know Rust. One thing I will say about this action, because, you know, it is pretty lackluster. It's not really going anywhere, but they are going across the whole range. It's been at the low and the high multiple times here. It's just kind of weird. Oh, so oil has range? Okay. I don't know. Oil had a pretty decent downside move overnight. So I would not expect oil to stay in this range, whereas ZN might. Oh man, yeah. So that yesterday, a big development in AI, I think. Company called the Meter, I think, METR. They did a study where they took developers and allowed them to use AI tools, and then they took developers and didn't allow them to use AI tools. And the developers thought that they were faster with AI tools, but they were actually 19% slower. And I myself have kind of wondered this. There have been times where I've done things with AI and I'm like, oh my gosh, that helped me out so much. I went so much faster because I did that. And then there are other times where it's like the AI just leads you on the wrong course so often that you really have to wonder if it's worth it. Now, some people are arguing or are, I don't know, you could call it in denial about it, but there are some people are saying, well, it's because they're not experienced with the tool. And that if they're more experienced with using AI, then they will see a speed up. But I feel that being 20% faster with AI tools is not actually a meaningful. I mean, it's definitely not the level of productivity increase everybody's been billing AI as, is it? So that study is kind of a big deal right now, I think. Hey, Paul says, I'm up 25. Wow, you're all the way up to 2,500? Yeah. Well, don't this is where you kind of will start to psych yourself out, right? Because you're getting close to the end of it. You only need 3,000, right? You just got to keep doing what you're doing. I have not seen AI unit testing frameworks. I've definitely seen, I think that okay, I just wrote a bunch of code, generate some unit tests for this code. That's like a really powerful use case. At least it gets you started. Writing unit tests will be a thing of the past. Well, but that's where, okay, so this is where the test-driven development thing comes in, right? Because if you write code and then after the fact you write a bunch of unit tests, and what ends up happening is you just write a bunch of unit tests that only pass. Whereas if you do test-driven development first, you're more likely to actually catch problems and stuff. But there's some problems with test-driven development too. Does he trade a live account? I don't think that he has. He can definitely do more with a prop firm account than a live account, but I don't know. I really view the prop firms as kind of more of a YOLO, right? Like if I want to do a YOLO strategy, then I'm gonna trade prop firm. Keep my own money for things that are more reliable. They're going to break the bottom of this? I mean, the robot's going to stay in that, right? Wait, when did it enter? $19. So it's got 6 minutes. Yeah. All the money in my account was barely 1K, but still 1K lost. Did you lose it all at once, though? Or was it just slowly over time? Because I think if you're really appropriately sizing your trades, 1K should last you a really long time. Yeah, I lost about 1/3 at a time. Yeah. Well, that's what I find is that like it'll be teeny and then you'll have one period where you just really screw up. And like the whole trick is being able to avoid that one period. And right, so basically most retail traders, they think about things in terms of, okay, I come in, I win every day, and that's the important thing. And then when that one bad time period comes along, that's an aberration. I screwed up. That's not really reflective of me or how I trade or of the strategy. But the reality is that period where the big losses come is basically all that matters. Avoiding those is basically all that matters for some strategies. So we have one of those. I don't know. 20% is not 30% is not like I wouldn't kick myself over that per se. I think that drawdowns of that nature are going to happen one way or another. But still, the whole game is basically avoiding those. And I've been doing pretty good at avoiding those. I guess I had one at the beginning of 2024, but oh wow. Somebody sent me something interesting they did with AI. I was like, oh, okay. Let's read this. It's like 17 pages. 17-page Word document. Whew. So we're touching the stop out zone in the 10-year right now. Robot will hold on to this for another 2 minutes. I'm kind of wondering if there's not a false breakout trade here. I don't think that the false breakout trade is ever really worth it from a risk reward perspective, but I do think we've been pretty good at calling them. We'll see if it happens. seems to be lacking quite a bit of page. What do you mean by page control? Does your trading system is explained on the channel? Yeah. So you know what I would do is I would go and watch the order flow video series. That's really the best, most complete explanation of what I'm doing. What programming language would you recommend if you wanted to get started and build simple projects like a trade tracker or a simple project to help with my trading? Well, so, you know, if I had a little bit better idea of like exactly what you were looking to build, I might be able to give more specific things, because maybe you want an interface that works a certain way or things like that. But generally speaking, the answer is Python. Oh, see, Brad beat me to it. The answer is definitely Python. So the reason I say that is like, if I want to make like a DOM, probably not going to use Python, right? If I'm going to make a report, you can kind of use Python depending on the kind of report. It's not too bad at that, you know. But you know, Python isn't necessarily very good at making like really full-featured desktop GUI applications, for instance, right? But it's fast. There's probably more Python code out there for you to look at as an example than almost anything else, and it's really good at dealing with data. You load pandas in there. You want to do machine learning stuff, use PyTorch. And so I, you know, it used to be, man, when I first came out of school, and, you know, there were some people that were really excited about Python, and I could just never quite get myself into it, because there's certain things about the way it's structured and everything that I don't like. But it just keeps getting more and more popular to the point where
Order filled.
For starting out, it's your best option. So much so that I would really like to make my own trading platform. I really think that we could be successful in making a trading platform. Because, you know, like here we're talking about Edge Pro X. Edge Pro X is an okay platform. I think I could make a better one. And one of the things that I think I would want in my platform is all of the programming to be done in Python. For Edge Pro X, you can't control how many DOMs or charts are on the page, and there's a ton of wasted space you have no ability to change, move, or get rid of. I do remember their DOM, like you not being able to like really slim it down as much as I would like. But I don't remember not being able to add multiple charts on there or multiple DOMs. Cool. So after doing some research, Python seems best fit, but depends on the project or the thing. Yeah. So, what are the things that I find Python is not good at? Number one, if you want to build like a really large scalable business application, like a back-end application, probably don't want to use Python. There are certain tools and things that you've got that they're, you know, trying to alleviate that and make it better for like back-end stuff. But generally speaking, it's not considered serious for backends. And in fact, kind of what happened was at the beginning of the Web 2.0 revolution, there were a lot, and I mean a lot of web applications that were running with a Python backend, and they all ended up having to abandon their Python backends for something else. So that's where, if I was doing a back end, well, of course, there's always Java and C#. And I think that you can iterate a lot faster with Java and C#. But if I'm not so worried about that, and I want it to be performant, and I've got good people and everything, and I'm, I can hire people and whatnot, I would probably use Golang or Rust for that, for instance, right? And desktop application, well, this is where things get kind of difficult. And this is where maybe making a desktop, maybe making our own platform is not the time. I would really like to use Rust, but the state of desktop GUIs in Rust isn't quite there. So probably the best thing to use would be C++, which is kind of a mess. What was this, something else? Golang? No, I hear people complain about Golang, but it seems like it's been pretty successful. Man, the dollar is getting killed here. What's with that? Is that why the treasuries are falling? Okay, well, the dollar just pushed a little bit further and the yen is coming back, and so the treasuries reversed a little bit there. I would say that they moved a tick or two further than I expected, but it may actually be enough to justify a trade. Well, let's let the robot do it on its own. It's super close though. Like another spike of buying could push it over the threshold. What's the biggest hindrance to a programming language? Well, okay, so like as it pertains to Python in particular, the key thing here is that Python is an interpreted language. Like if you install Python and you go to the command line and you type Python, submitted, and then it goes into interactive Python mode, and everything that you type is going in and is processed dynamically, right? Versus if you write something in C++, it has to be compiled into a binary, right? So there's a lot of overhead in an interpreted language. That's why we don't really call Python a programming language. It's a scripting language, right? There's certain limitations to it being a scripting language, particularly when it comes to performance. Okay. And then the next big dichotomy that comes in programming languages is whether it is a garbage collected language or not. So what garbage collecting is when you create objects, it goes in and makes space for them in your memory in a place that we call the heap. And in C++, you control when things are put on the heap and taken off. And that's a big deal because putting things into memory is an expensive process. Okay. So controlling when that happens can speed up your application significantly. In a program like C++ or sorry, C# or Java, basically what they do is they have this garbage collector thing that runs around, and every once in a while it looks and it says, okay, is there anything in my code like actively pointing to that object? And if there's not, then it deletes it. Okay, so that makes things easy because you don't have to worry about the memory. But in programming languages like Rust and C++, you have complete control over that, and you can make applications significantly faster because of that. So that's why when you get into like high frequency trading algorithms, for instance, it's very common for those to like start out in Python and then get converted into C++ or Rust so that they can be fast. So that's kind of the big thing. And then the next limitation is just, are there libraries for the thing? So the reason that Python, I think, kind of has ended up being the winner of the last 20 years. Really, when I think about programming languages, the clear winner is Python. It's because it has such a huge ecosystem of libraries. Although, interestingly enough, the state of libraries for like backtesting and doing financial stuff in Python is kind of iffy. It's not really in the best state. There's lots of different ways of doing it, but they all have their issues. Watching you for about a year, and every time I ask you a question, you always give me an in-depth. Oh, thank you. Well, that's just the way I work. If it's something that I know something about, I just love to talk about it. Let's see here, though. I see many professional traders, or at least those who claim to be trading few contracts, even though the markets they trade are highly liquid, such as yes and no. So the truth, Adil, is that the futures are very, very leveraged. You can lose a lot of money very quickly in futures, right? There's not a lot of people out there with trading accounts in the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that can afford to lose thousands of dollars every day. Okay. And even with one contract, you can lose $1,000 in a day very, very easily. So that's why you see most retail traders, they kind of stick with one. And the whole idea is like, okay, I'm going to start with one contract, and then as things go along, I will scale up. But kind of what happens is all in, all out, one contract is really, really tough to do and manage. And so you just never end up graduating from one contract. That's kind of what happens. For me, there have definitely been some periods where I could have or should have scaled up. And kind of what happens to me is either one, I'm trading so small that the account doesn't really build up because of the data fees and stuff like that, right? So like I'm doing okay, but then when you include the data fees, you're not making money. Or I'm doing really, really well, and it's like, well, I have to scale up now. And as soon as you start scaling up, the market shifts on you, and you don't understand the market, and you start doing terrible. It's happened to me many times. I don't know what the deal is with that. It just seems like when I start doing well enough to feel confident going in and doing multiple contracts, the market changes, and then all of a sudden I don't understand that market at all. So, like, I kind of think that's part of what happened beginning of 2024 when I took was only like $100, $200 loss, but for me that was significant. So, you're up 700 on the day? Wait, what are you trading to get that though, Apal? Are you trading oil? Wow, you're up past the 3K total now, but now you need 7 trading days. Yeah, it's so crazy that you're having so much immediate success with it, isn't it? Yeah. Well, but I thought you would do well. But no, I am a real degenerate. I'm on NQ. Well, hey. No, well, that's even more interesting that you made 700 on N, because they're not moving that much right now, are they? Well, we got the open coming here. We had a good spike up, and it's already given up those gains. I just saw a picture here on Reddit. Have you seen these Labubu things? The heck? And like girls will attach these gigantic things onto their purses and stuff. It's so obviously you should be having children and you don't have children, so you get a Labubu. Can you explain the reason for the ZN which ZN trade? The long? Well, I think the only kind of trade that I called was a long, well, or the one that the algorithm is in. The one that the algorithm is in over here. Okay. So this line right here is called market order imbalance. And it's basically a measure of the market orders over the last 10 minutes. Whatever the period is. I think it's 10 minutes on this one. Yeah, 10. Yeah, 10. Okay, so if the market orders are more than 53% buy, then the algorithm takes the trade. So that's the trigger there for that. So essentially the theory behind it is when you have an imbalance in the market orders, that imbalance tends to persist for several hours. And 53% is just kind of the threshold that we've identified where we want, because we want it to take a lot of trades where it gets in. So I think, by the way, we've been testing this for a while. There's been a couple of little things that we've ironed out, and it took a while for us to find and figure out. But this past week, it's been doing what it's supposed to. So I'm pretty happy with that part. I think that it is time to start adding some filters and stuff on it. So basically, I want to have some things. So I think there's a couple of things that I want to add here. One of them is I want to add a GUI element that will allow me to tell it only go long or only go short. So I can say, I can come in and based on what I know and what's going on, only take the longs, right? And then I want to add another part, which is where the algo and based on machine learning and so forth, it will give a recommendation as to whether we should filter only longs or only shorts. And more broadly, we want to add, filtering for, using all of these different data series that we have, looking for some sort of a Markov, hidden Markov system for determining which regime we're in and whether we want to go long, whether we want to favor longs or shorts. And maybe we'd do something where it's like, well, maybe you can still take a short even if we're not in a short regime, but the imbalance just has to be bigger, right? Or maybe we have something where it adjusts the imbalance based on what type of a market it is. Because we have kind of found that there are some types of markets where that gets triggered a lot, not whatnot. So I think that I think we're ready to like take the next steps on this algo, but I've got some stuff I want to do some inventory cost basis stuff first. And I just haven't had the time. I want to make that in Sierra charts. I think I'm going to try and make it in trading view. And, you know, I probably need 5 days. Five solid days of development to do it. And I just haven't done that. Eventually, I might end up with a version to turn it into a gamble bot. So I wonder, Paul, on the trade that you won, that you made money on today, was it a long or a short? Because I'm thinking, well, if I was trading ES today, I think that the Canada thing will continue to weigh. So I think I would rather be short than long, but there's definitely been some opportunity to make some money on the long side. Now, another thing with the trade. Okay, so the robot, it took the trade because it got 53%, then it goes long, right? But we also saw we were trading really, really tight, and then we came down here. That to me, given that it's a Friday and we're not expecting there to be a lot of trending action today, so in those circumstances, I favor the fake breakout, trading it as a fake breakout. I don't think that is a really good setup per se, because the risk reward on it is not very good. Like if that's wrong, then you risk taking it on the nose in a really strong downtrend. So you don't necessarily want to mess with that. But given how range bound it was and everything, I think the probability is that they will reverse. And then the algorithm saw the long. Okay, cool. But it's been a while now. So I don't know if it's really actually going to work out. I think I'm still leaning on that we will come back to the 30, but we'll see. We'll see. Oh, wow. Wait, so you're doing it with a robot, Paul? Is it all automated? It was directly at the opening bell. I like it. I really like it. Like if it's a robot, if it's a gambling robot, that just kind of is even more interesting to me, just because, you know, I think one of the problems you might run into is, okay, so you should be able to pass it like 30% of the time, right? But that's like if your trades are really actually random, and maybe you're not. Well, okay, so then what did you mistype something there when you said long bot? Oh, maybe you meant to say long buy, and that 35 second section. Was it the full size NQ contract? Yeah, I just typed bot as I was reading how it's portrayed to me, and yes, one in. That's good. Okay, so do you have like a clear entry criteria for it, or is it kind of feels or maybe kind of random? Because you kind of sound like you're doing degenerate, but you must have. I'm guessing that it's not random. I'm guessing that you do have an idea of what you want to do. Although then at that point I'd be interested to know why it would be a buy. I don't know, guys. The Japanese yen, it bounced a little bit. It's coming back here. I'm worried that the 10-year might go to new lows. This robot trade will end up being a real loser. The first trade it took today was a loser. The last, like, what, 4 ticks? Really, the algorithm does better in trending action. Like, when the market was first having its freak out because of tariffs, that algorithm did so freaking well. It was really surprised me how well it did. I really thought it was, frankly, suspicious that it was like, as soon as I start doing it, it's getting the best trades it could possibly could. Yeah, I guess another thing I was gonna mention that I didn't was like, so on ideas. So like there's 2 main things that I want to do with these algorithms. And one of them is that I want to incorporate more machine learning into it. Okay. So I think that that's a pretty big project, but you know, and it's always kind of been like the next on the horizon, and we kind of pushed it back for building this, and then we can apply it to this, and I think that should be good. But the other thing that I want to do is I want to do some LLM stuff. So, oh man, you know, there's one of these things where it's like you get more dopamine from telling people about something than you do from actually doing it. And so I kind of avoid telling people about some ideas, because then I feel like if I tell them, I'll never do it. But this is an idea that I don't know if I actually would ever have time to do. So I was talking to ChatGPT, and I was telling it, you know, I think there is a scenario where artificial intelligence removes enough bottlenecks in the processes that employees become more scalable. Right? We've talked about this before. Adding twice as many employees doesn't necessarily mean that you get twice as much revenue. But what if it did? What if all of the things that are preventing you from making more revenue from having more employees were removed? Then wouldn't the correct strategy at that point be to have as many employees as possible? Okay. In that world, the real bottleneck becomes how scalable is your business, right? Like if you already own 90% of the market, then maybe that's not so scalable, right? So what would be kind of industries that would be the most scalable? And so I asked ChatGPT this, and it gave me a lot of interesting answers. I do think one of them is materials. Materials is something that I'm really watching. I think that in a world post labor scarcity, that materials end up being the most valuable thing at that point. Okay. But it also gave this idea for an app. And the idea it had for an app was an AI matching system. So some sort of an application that you apply to, and the AI matches you up with people, companies, or whatever, right? And there are some apps that kind of do this sort of thing, like the Y Combinator has an app like this that's supposed to like match people up entrepreneurs up and stuff, but I don't know, reviews of it are kind of like people don't follow up and all of these sorts of things, right? But the ChatGPT, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Like, let's tell me more about that. And it gave me a whole plan for how it would work that I was really, really surprised at how thorough and clever of a solution it was giving. Because how do you match people up? You take these people and they say what it is that they want to do, and then you just pass everybody into this big, large language model prompt to match them up. That's not going to work. You can't, match 1,000 people with 1,000 people. How would that work? And what it said was, okay, actually, you break it down. So first, you start with the person talking to an LLM, and you explain to the LLM what it is that you're trying to do. And there's a couple of pieces of information that the LLM wants to get from you. And from that information, it then creates like a summary. And these summaries are all consistent. And you can pass that summary into a different type of model. So this different type of model kind of will allow you to say, like, how close are these to each other? So you extract the key information, you put it into this other model, and this other model then will say, okay, for this individual person, what are like the 100 closest matches? What are the ones that are like within the vicinity of it, right? Okay. Now you have a smaller problem. Isn't it interesting how that works? Now you have a smaller problem. Now you can say, okay, here is my candidate, and here are the 20 closest matches. Which one do you think is the best match? And then the LLM can factor in all these things like, okay, how much time do they have, and like where do they live, and all of these sorts of things, logic to figure out at that point who is the best match for them. And then you put them both in you make a match, you put them both in a conversation, and the LLM prompts the users to talk to each other and start doing something. Okay. So I thought, man, that seems like such a good idea. Like somebody else has to have been trying to do it. And I even asked it about that, and it told me like people that have tried doing similar things, but how this idea is different. And it was funny because it kept calling it my idea, but I'm like, ChatGPT came up with this completely on its own. Okay. So if so right now I'm, by the way, on the day job. We're coming to the end of the 3-month contract period, and they're going to extend it another 3 months. We haven't been able to come to an agreement on compensation, so they want another 3 months to figure it out. And I think part of it is that tariffs on Japan could affect them significantly. So anyways, but after the 3 months, if we had that, and after that I had some free time, like I got my parents over to watch the kids, and maybe then I could do that idea. But otherwise it kind of sounds like something that's like really interesting to me, and I probably don't do. And then somebody else does it, and they probably have some innovations that I didn't even think of, and they become mega mondo rich about it. That's the way that it often goes. Okay. So why am I bringing that up? Because when it started going into all of that stuff, I started to realize that, like, you don't necessarily want, if you want to use large language models in your trading, you don't necessarily want to use it for the whole thing. You just want to use it for the parts that it is good at. So I can use a web scraper to scrape together articles and like subscriptions that I have, pass all of that information into the model, and give it a couple of guidelines to try and decipher like make a prediction for the order flow, right? And I'm using the part that it's good at, which is being able to read a ton of information and digest it down into like the one thing that I want to know. Are they going to be buying or selling in my instrument today? Right? And then I pass that decision off onto other parts, onto other algorithms. Like, so it makes a determination as to whether there's going to be strong flow imbalance. And based on that decision, then this algorithm will filter the trades that it takes differently. Now, I can't backtest that because I don't have a historical way to see what the LLM would have told me 5 days ago or whatever. Right? So there's like a big kind of leap of faith in doing that the LLM is actually coming up with good like information. But you have that same problem when you're doing discretionary trading, right? You're coming in, you're collecting all of the information, and you're making a decision to say my bias for the day is long or short. And you can't necessarily prove what you would have said was long or short yesterday or a week ago or a month ago, unless you were doing it live, right? So that the LLM has the same problem that we have with just ourselves, right? But what you can do is you can say, okay, what's the output that it gets? And does that really line up with the research? And you can improve the prompt that you get it. And then you can forward test it, right? So that's the other thing that I want to do. So that the two major things are include some machine learning regime filtering. And then the second one is incorporate large language models. And then I guess I do have a business idea to go after outside of trading if I get the time. I don't know. Maybe I will just end up doing it. I think the difficulty with that idea is getting users to test it and actually make something, you know? Maybe if I found some partners, maybe if I found some people that were willing to go into it with me. But. Okay, by the way, we did push a little bit lower. So I think this, well, the robot's going to stay in it for, it's still got 30 minutes. So I'm not going to call it, but so far the flows continue to be on the short side. I am kind of starting to wonder here. I don't see how the market order imbalance could be long in that situation. How is it that it's constantly getting the imbalances to the long side, even though the cumulative delta is net short? That's really, really interesting. And it's been like this all week, and it kind of makes me wonder if there's like a problem. I guess we could, well, it's too late now. I got to get going. But I guess on Monday, what I should do is I should go in and look at the numbers and just verify by hand to try and understand why it's coming out that way. All right, guys. Well, time for me to get going. It's going to go a lot down. There's another good down tick. I'm going to leave the algorithm going, so I guess we'll see on Monday what it did. But I'm going to get going. I will see you on Monday. Stay excellent, team.